Hey, everyone. How's everyone doing? Exactly.
Good.
Are we murdering line of action? So welcome, everyone, to today's Force Friday event. We're going to try to not do too much murdering today and give line of action some credit. Welcome to Diego, Swenley, and Matunje. Hey, guys, thanks for coming in, joining the
Hey, Mike, how you doing? Hello, guys.
How are you?
Good. So today we're going to talk about line of action, right? Line of action's been around for forever, right? When it comes to drawing, I don't know where it actually started. My guess would be animation, if I had to take a guess. I tried to spend some time over the last few days, even just looking at the definition of it, and it's kind of random. You know, some artists talk about it as like an abstract representation of the spine, and some other definitions say it's more of this abstract line of action, that it isn't, you know, in the body. A lot of them focus on it only on the body. We're going to talk about other uses to line of action today as well. Each one of us, meaning each one of the Force instructors, is going to talk about a slightly different topic relative to line of action and kind of what works for it, what doesn't work with it. And hopefully by the end of this live Force workshop, this Force Friday, you're going to have a better sense of the sort of shortcomings of line of action and also its strengths. Like, how can you actually use it in a really, really impactful and beneficial way. So with that, I'm going to hand this over first to Swenley. Oh, and while I'm doing that, here you go, Swenley.
Yes.
The other thing I want you all to be aware of is we're not going to, for a little while at least, we're not going to do critique every Friday. It doesn't mean you shouldn't send your work in, because it'll go into that Dropbox folder. We have already a few more like lesson sessions set up, which you've seen on the Force channel. So we'll do those, we'll go through those, and then probably after that will be the next critique session. So we have 2 more lessons set up after this one for you guys. And then a critique session will come after that. And that's when we'll have a full hour of critique basically again. Okay. So why don't you take it away, Swen? We have a lot of stuff to cover. Each one of us, again, will get around 15 minutes and we'll move forward through this.
Yes, thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
Well, and drawing with a line of action, like Mike mentioned, I also drew a lot of inspiration from animation. And of course, I came across the line of action, and I used it for a while in my work. But at a certain point, I noticed that, yeah, that like its benefits and getting like an overall sense of the movement you want to portray. But I'm going to show you one weakness that I noticed pretty early on. And on my screen, you can see 2 line of action. Like sometimes it's just 1 line. Sometimes you can abstract it even to 2 like main actions, main movements. And the thing is, it's here you have like this nice fluid line of action, right? But the thing is, it's still possible to have this. And if you don't understand how the body works, you know, how to keep it fluid and connected and balanced, it's possible to come here and draw like a super stiff and dysfunctional pose on the line of action. You know, so the line of action basically, it doesn't guarantee a functional pose. Now I can come in here and draw like a super stiff figure.
So Sunday, you're doing a bad example, right?
Yes.
Oh, I knew you could draw better than that.
Hey,
Yeah, so you can...
leave Swenley alone.
Yeah, so I can say, okay, I have a nice line of action. Let me draw a figure on top. And let's see what happens. This would be the hand. This would be other arm. Maybe it's doing something like this. Okay, let's draw one on the other line. Let's see. Let's start with the torso. Maybe you want to use like an egg shape for the pelvis. Let the legs, of course, follow the line. And the other leg. And maybe we have the neck is bending a little bit. Egg shape for the head.
Hey, Swenley, you have some artists are saying how interested they are in potentially mentoring with you because of these drawings.
Really?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Really good.
And maybe the arm is doing something like this. And then you have the other arm up here. Okay, so then we take away the line of action and look at this. You know, I started with a line of action. It's nice and cute, but it doesn't guarantee, like, without an understanding of how to draw a functional body, this is what you end up with, you know? So the line of action is a good start to abstract the overall movement, but pretty soon I realized it doesn't guarantee a good result. You know, I was still struggling like crazy with posing my characters, and especially when doing client work, it became really frustrating. So at a certain point, I almost like unconsciously just stopped using it, and I went on a search for more. You know, I realized I needed a different level of understanding of the human body to enable me to invent believable poses. Any of you guys have anything to add?
Yeah, that's awesome, Sunday.
Really?
Yeah, amazing.
I'm going to sell this one, $500.
Yeah, it's good. You could do like lithographs of it. G clay prints of limited.
By the way, we are laughing about Swenley, not his drawing, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
I know that
the
many
other way.
people are drawing like this right now, and it's not something to laugh about. This is why we are here to make you understand that this is not a good way to start, right? I think that's
exactly.
important to mention.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we all start somewhere. Like I started here. I mean, you go a couple of videos back, we showed our childhood drawings. And you can see when I was Metunje's age, I was drawing like this, you know?
Yeah,
you mean five.
So weird to think that, you know, such fluid lines, you know, create such stiff poses, you know. So they
Yeah,
must like stay aware of it.
yeah, you know, it's because the figure itself isn't fluid, you know? I drew it on a fluid line, but it's still stiff. So the line of
Yeah.
action doesn't guarantee fluidity. You know, you need it only helps if you know how to draw a functional figure on top.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, so this is for my part to set the stage. I'm going to hand it over to the next one.
Awesome.
Which is Mitunje, right?
Yeah, I think it was Matunje, right?
No, guys, it's me. It's
Is
me.
it
It's
Diego?
Yeah.
Hey, see how coordinated we are.
Okay, can you see my screen now?
Oh, look at it. It's beautiful.
Thank you. You look at my screen or my camera?
Nice. Nice. That was a good one. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll be talking about a little bit about the line of action and kind of real confusion we have about the line of action. So here's a question. Are you trying to speed up your gesture? And many people think that line of action is going to help you draw faster because you're thinking fast. You got one line to draw and that's all. That's pretty fast and pretty easy. But to me, the line of action, it's something that you need to know a lot. That what Swanley was just saying, that you need to understand a lot of things to use the line of action. It's like when you trying to say something in few words, in really few words, you need to know the big concept to say it in a few words. You cannot talk about something that you don't know anything about and say that in 3 lines, you know? So here are the most common things that happens here. The line of action is a concept, okay? The line of action is not magic. It's a concept and sometimes it's not visible on the pose itself. I think Ritumjay after me is going to draw a demo of one of the poses that really shows this problem when the line of action is not showing really the thing that is happening, functionality in the pose, right? We'll see that later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the other thing is the line of action is good for some things. It can help you to visualize the main movement of the pose in a very, 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 very abstract way. So that helps if you know what you're doing, right? As Swenley says. So I'm going fast because
You got time. You got time.
Yeah, but I have a lot to say.
Okay.
So is it useful? Yes, but it is way too inaccurate. Okay, it's way too inaccurate. Is it useful if you know what you want to do with it? But if not, it's way too inaccurate. And so let's see how we can improve that. Okay, so yesterday I started to draw a bunch of drawing for today. And first, I want to show you this that I hope I'm not reading the chat, but I would love to these other instructors to tell me if someone replied to this. On the top of the screen, I have this line, right? I don't know what I'm saying on top of the screen because I can draw here. This line, it would be the line of action of this pose, right? Let me grab another color. Here we go. So this would be your line of action here, right? Everyone would say that. So that's good. We have the main idea of this pose, but what happened here? We have the same kind of line of action. So if I don't know how to work, how the whole body works, this line of action represents the same pose. And of course, I have many, many more examples. Look at this. What's the line of action there? It's the same. What about this? It's the same. What about this? It's the same. What about this? The same, the same, the same. Well, this one is I draw it bigger. And this is the same. So we have a bunch of poses that are the same line of action. So if you're just starting with drawing and gesture drawing, it won't be good to use this line as start. Let me get a new layer on top of this one. And why not? In this case, it would be amazing because this is how I would start, like doing like this, right? I would go here for this pose, right? But in other poses, this line won't be helpful because sometimes it's not on the outside or it's maybe on the inside. Here, for example, the back of this pose is this, right? And this is how we work using force, right? In this case, I said I would start here, but I need to understand that the spine is working like that, right? And here, we should go like this, okay? And here is going to go this way. So if I just take the line of action in this direction, I won't have any idea of where to go because I'm not thinking about how it functions, yes? I'm just thinking of what the whole pose is about. And it's something that moves from here to there, right? Everyone agree here? It makes sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what is the biggest problem of using the line of action when you're starting? To me, the line of action is something that you will use once you understand a lot of things. But if you use it at the beginning, to me, it would only confuse you. Okay, it will give you some clues about things, but you won't be able to decipher the rest of the pose. Because yeah, it's so good to do one line and understand that, okay, this model is going this way, right? It's doing this here. But what next? Yeah, sometimes it continues to the legs, and you can get like a foot here. Okay, I have this, but what next? What do I do? Do I close this with a straight line? Because I heard somewhere that straight against curve, right? So yeah, here's a curve and here's a straight. No, that's not the pose. So then you start to confusing yourself because you want to create something. You want to go faster, right? I'm drawing on the top of the drawing, so that's what I'm going back. So what would be the best way to use the line of action? You can draw this on a side of your. Always, I'm talking about quick gesture, right? A 30-second, 1 minute poses. So you can do this to see, okay, I want to get that idea on my drawing, on the whole pose. So I start drawing, I draw this on the side, I start drawing, and I draw like a pose like this, right? I'm doing this. As good as Swanley, right? So I'm looking at this, and then I'm looking at this and says, okay, this is not saying the same thing as this. So I can use this to have a reference in my head of where I'm going to, right? And compare this line of action to what I'm drawing. But the line of action won't help you to draw faster. I think that's the whole thing I want to talk about. Like, I don't want you to think that using the line of action is going to help you in the beginning to be faster or to draw faster, right? It would only give you an abstract idea of the whole pose in just one line. And for just one line, there's too much information, right? There's not enough in one line. I mean, there's too much information in the pose that just one line won't make it. Okay, let's take a look at a specific pose. For example, this one. So we said here that the line of action, it will be something like this. Okay, what about this leg? What about the arms? What's the function of the arms? You know, there's no, it's not, how you say, it is not casual that this model is doing this, right? With his arm and with the other arm, right? There's a work in progress here. Like, this arm is pushing against his back and is helping to balance the pose, right? So I'm also thinking about gravity here. How the whole pose is working. This leg is going backward just because if I don't have this leg and the other leg was here, you know what happened. This guy will fall. So there are many, many other things I have to take in consideration when I'm drawing than just the line of action. And actually, at the beginning, the line of action will only confuse you because you said, I'm going like this. And maybe you say, yeah, I can see the leg that is going back. Then if you can see this leg that is going back, why are you using the line of action? You know, so guys, that makes sense. I want to hear people in the chat saying if that makes sense or not. If you have any question, please feel free to ask. I have like, I have a lot of time left. That's amazing.
You got plenty of time, yeah.
Yeah. So
I give it to you with my time.
Is yeah. Yeah. Is there any question there on the chat that anybody can read?
Not specific to what you're doing. I think what you're doing is great. Let's see. Otacity said video suggestion how to describe. Oh, let's describe the function of a pose. No, nothing specific. I think to what you're talking about. It seems like everyone's been doing fine. I think you've been doing a great job of just being really clear. So maybe to reiterate what you're saying, it sounds like the line of action is just so simple, right? It's so abstract that, you know, you can push numerous poses into the same line of action as you started. And it doesn't really show how things work, right, per se. It's just really short-sighted, right? I guess it's very short-sighted. It's oversimplification, right?
Yeah, it looks like when we're drawing with fours, we're thinking about a lot of other things, not just one direction. It's like the line of action is kind of to translate it to force. It would be one directional force, right?
Yes,
We
exactly.
have one directional force, and we have something that this directional force, for those of you who knows about force, it also then has a coming from, right, and a going to. So where is going to? So if I have just one line of action, where this is going to and where this is coming from, we have no idea. So for example, what I was drawing here is this line of action, or this directional force, is going to the arm. And look how easy it is. Okay, it's not easy, but it is easy to understand. Then to apply it is you need practice and to understand a lot of things. But you're coming from here, and then you go in here, and look, you keep going to the hand, and then the fingers go to the other side. Okay, the same thing's going with the other shoulder, right? It's coming here to the other arm and the other fingers, right? And you come in here. This is what we call a C pose, right? We're going around. We get to the hip. We go here to the leg, lower leg. Same here. Here, this keep going in the front. Okay, we can go around, down to the foot. Okay, we're creating a path with our line of action. We are many lines of action called directional forces. So the line of action is just one thing. We have an exercise that we have to draw the whole pose in 4 lines. Like we need to, not 4 lines, but 4 paths, right? And this would be one path, right? Mm-hmm. And so imagine if with the reduction or the summary of the pose, we can do it in 4 lines. And that's really, really, really compressing the pose in 4 paths. Imagine what we can do with just one. There's no many things we can say with 1 line. So be aware of that. And when you want to start drawing a pose, you can use the line of action thinking, for example, I would love to see, I would love you guys to see what Ritunche is going to draw, because he will show that one of the poses, the line of action go against what the pose is doing. And that's a great example to see that the line of action is not enough, not enough information. And after that, Mike is going to talk good ways to use the line of action and how to apply it in many other things. Yeah, we'll see. I'm hoping the best for you guys.
Yeah, try to give it.
Diego, to your point, because you mentioned that the line of action gives too little information. Like it can represent different poses, but in your last demonstration, you drew the path of rhythm, and that one is unique to the pose. Like if you show the path of rhythm, like that's one pose, right? It doesn't fit numerous poses. It's very specific.
Oh, okay. You mean when I did that,
right?
Like coming here, here, and here.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's really specific. You cannot put that on a completely different pose.
Yeah, that's a great point. Let me remove this. So I have awesome line.
Yeah.
let me redraw that line.
You can't put that
Just
line on the other drawings, right? To
yeah,
affect that shadow.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Let's try with this one. Let's go like this and get something like that. And let's try to get rid of this and put it on this other pose. And
Wow, it works. Look at that.
yeah. Okay, it doesn't work, right? Yeah, that would be so funny. In this other pose, look,
Yeah, it doesn't work.
it doesn't work.
Yeah, it
That's a
doesn't work.
really good point, Sandy.
Yeah.
Okay, here again, it's not working. You see? So even this line that is just one path of one pose is not working in every pose. But as you can see before, the other, the line of action, it worked on every pose. On every pose I drew, it was working.
Yeah, it's
Okay?
too generic.
Yes.
You see? So, well, if there's no questions, let's speed this up so
Get to Mertunje.
Mike has more time and Rutunje too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Diego. That was awesome.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
awesome too.
Yep. Let me share my screen. All right, guys. Funny face here. You know, intelligent as well. Gonna show you some awesome drawings today. So, can you hear me properly? I
Yeah.
believe. Yep.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. So yes, hello guys. This is one of the poses from model packs. You know, so let's see. You know, this is a very fluid pose. You know, I think it's Andy the model. He's really like doing like such a dynamic pose, like zing. You know, it's kind of stretching. You know, and it's like pushing here and here. You know, on the opposite sides. So you know what I want to show you today is the line of action is a good tool. You know, just again, like Diego said, it's a very kind of very into thousand abstract, you know, times that kind of tool that's gonna help you very little to think about it. But now you can see that if I draw the line of action here, the same line of action here, and I hide this pose like totally completely, it's not gonna give me that, you know, to direct me that pose that what's the pose is all about. Okay. But one of the demerits of the line of action is that it doesn't give you what's actually happening. Okay. So for example, you know, I can draw this pose like here, okay, the same with here. It covers the model's left leg, right? It covers the model's left leg. But what about the right leg, you know? So if you don't draw the right leg in here, so it's like the model's gonna fall over to this side, right? Because like gravity is acting upon it. So now I can see like the line of action is not really doing, you know, what it should do. And the first thing it should do is like balance the figure, okay? That it should go for its function. It's not doing that, you know. So that's one of the biggest, you know, demerits of the line of action, I believe. And then there's like so many lines that we have to go through to be really specific about the pose itself. So there's like this, you know, so yeah, basically there's like so many lines, you know, that you have to put in there, you know, to actually make that pose work. The line of action is just like one line that's not going to help you that way. So again, you can see like how much like this pose is helping the model to stand, you know, this one. And you know, the line of action is not doing that. So yeah, let's get to another pose. Yeah.
Just remember, you
So
have
this
time
is,
too, Mertunje, to take your time drawing and be able to make your point
yeah,
really
I'm
clear.
just gonna
No
spend
rush.
most of the time, I think, demoing, you know, that's gonna be more clear to people. Yes. So again, this is a really cool pose. You know, this pose is like really famous on the drawingpose.com site because many people messes up with it, you know, because people think, yeah, there's he's like pushing into the shoulder, so it will go here. And I think people go like this, you know, with this pose. But you know, it's not like that. You know, it's something like let me delete it. Yeah. So you can see like he's like pushing back in here, and then it's like coming forward, into the abdomen, and that's like the main function of this figure. So now you can see like the line of action is really like straight, cutting down to the foot, but it's not actually showing you the main function of the body, like what he's doing. The mal is doing this, with his hand, like hand is pulling back. So you can do this yourself and see how much pressure you have in your back in this area. So line of action is not doing that. So what do you think? So yes, this poses something like this, and yeah. And what about the other leg? What do you think about the other leg? So line of action is just doing this, but again, it's not going to support the figure itself. Okay. So now you can really see that this leg is, making the model stand out, and it's not doing it. Okay. So yes, do you guys have anything to say about this?
Yeah, may I add a little thing about this? This one, the pose I was talking about before,
Yep.
that you can see that here. What Ritunjay drew, it's is this, and he even mentioned that he's going here, right? He's
Yes.
going this way. He's shooting his arm in front. It's like he's going to throw a punch. Already throw the punch to that side, right? It's going there,
Yes.
boom, to that side, boom. Can you draw that, Ritunja? Because with this annotation thing is really crappy.
Okay.
Uh, so he's going that way and he's going to shoot there. So if we think a little bit about the line of action of the top part of the body, of this top part, is going to be this one. And it's completely the opposite to the line of action, right?
Yes,
So
definitely.
this is really confusing for people who is just starting, right?
Yes.
This is why I love this example for the line of action. You really do a great job finding this pose, Ritunjay, to talk about the line of action.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, one of the things again I want to bring out is, for example, you get this, pretty cool line of action. You think that it's gonna make your figures, be more dynamic and fluidity, but you can just turn all the way, like, all around. As other instructors said, that it's just one directional force, right? So you can just like really turn this way around. Like you can do something like this, and yeah, you can do something like this, like turn the whole body other way around. So
Upside down. Yeah.
it's gonna be like completely confusing for you if you just like depend upon it. We're not saying that, just murder it. But yeah, it just depending upon the line of action and think that it's gonna make everything the fluid and good for you. It's not the way you think. Okay. So yes, what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna take a really good pose. Let me read that. And yeah, this was a pose. Yeah, it's a really cool pose. So I'm just gonna do a little drawing on it, and again, like show you that line of action is not actually what it gives you. Okay, it is not what it seems, right? So let's do this. So again, you can see the line of action in this pose is something like this. It's like going into depth and something like this. Here again, comes one of the demerits of the line of action, that it doesn't give you depth. I can see this pose, this model is, pushing, keeping his hand here, and he's really going into the page, that depth. So my first idea, as an artist, that yeah, that model is going into depth. That is what I want to capture, on the page. So line of action is not giving me that. And can you hide the pose and you can see like what it's doing, right? So anything could fit in there, but let's apply some forces on this. Really quick poses. I'm not gonna like spend like years on that, but yeah, let's see like how much it gives us. Everything that our idea is being clear. Yeah, let's go ahead. So yeah, I'm gonna start with that. That depth thing that I'm talking about. Okay. So it's really like going into depth there, and just be a little more specific in here. Don't worry about it. Just,
Do you want me to sing? I can sing.
No. Yeah, you can. Okay.
YouTube
I'm
will
just
take
gonna
the
do
video
a
down.
really quick pose, or maybe like if it's a little bit confusing for you because I'm doing my thing, you know. So I'd better be just make some really quick poses and show you that it doesn't like require that much amount of work to with the forces, you know, with directional applied forces to show this pose. Okay? So I'm just like really quick, you know. No, yes. Really quick, you know. And here comes the clasping of the shoulder. And here's my foot. Yeah.
See how sorry, Ritunjay, I want to say something about your
Yes, definitely.
awesomeness.
Yes.
See how fast you can get a pose understanding force. You know, see how easy it is for Ritunjay. See how easy it is to if you understand what's going on, how to get in a few lines what's going on in the pose. Okay, so speed. If we're talking about like you wanna get fast with quick poses, understanding what's going on, it's a key, and the line of action won't help you with that. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can look like.
Matunjay has
Yeah,
been generous enough to donate some of his DNA to us, so we are going to be sharing it with you guys, and you'll be able to get injections later on in the year. I think it's I forget the name of that stuff. There was that new product where they Splicer, right? So we're going to use Splicer. We could splice in some of his coding, and it'll be just as fast and easy for you as well.
yes. I
Will
want
we
Also,
my
get younger?
you know.
Will we get younger also?
Yeah.
no, but you will save for COVID-19.
Exactly.
Ritunjay is completely safe for COVID-19.
It's
So
immune.
there's like new disease coming, Mrityunjay's, whatever.
Yeah. All of a sudden, everyone could draw with force. There's a new virus, the force
Yeah.
virus.
So yeah, guys, this is just some easy forces, and you can see like just some really quick forces. Give me all sort of things. It gives me depth, it gives me form, it gives me shape, and whatever. If you can see it in here, I can definitely do it, and I can just like work it on 5 or more minutes. But I'm not gonna do that. But it's gonna like give me everything, and line of action is nowhere near to give me that. Okay. So yes, here's my end of the session. I'm gonna hand it over to Master Mike. Yep.
Oh my God, I'm not ready. I'm typing. Let's see. I would say.
Oh, I'm gonna say, hold on. There's a question there, but Joshua
I can
just
do it.
asked, could the
Yeah,
line
yeah, just do it.
from the arm be the line of action for the arm, and the
Mhm.
form be developed on top?
Uh, yeah. What are you saying? Just please repeat again.
Could that line for the arm be the line of action for the arm? I think he's talking about his right arm, that one.
Right.
And then the form be developed on top. Yeah, I think
Yes,
the answer to that is yes. Go ahead,
yes.
Ritunjay.
Yeah, answer to that is definitely yes, because now I since got the line, and got my main idea. Now I can build like form and shape and what anatomy, like whatever I want, I can do like rendering on it. So yes, definitely yes.
Yeah, I would just add that question goes off to what Diego described in his segment, which is each directional force, in a sense, you can almost call its own line of action. The challenge here
Yeah.
is that when you're trying to describe a pose, a human body, like
Mhm.
one line of action is not enough. It's too abstract. I mean, if we took this drawing that Mrityunjay just created, there's enough information there for it to be abstract, but also be pretty specific, right? We can't overlay this on top of another pose and go, oh yeah, it matches this other pose, because it doesn't. Right? We can see the whole pose here, right? With just a few lines, Mrityunjay has very successfully created a fluid and very rhythmic pose that's also showing function, right? We know that the rib cage is pushing into the right shoulder, and that right shoulder is supporting the upper body. And you don't get that with line of action, right? Line of action is just much simpler, right? Much more simple. So
Yes, definitely.
Cool. All right, let's see. I'm going to go to my Photoshop document. All right, everyone. So let's take a look at how can line of action be used. Again, most of you may not know this about me because you know me from Force and from the Force drawing books. And ironically, most people know that I came from animation, but I was only in animation a few years. I've actually been in the video game industry and advertising also over more like 20, 22 years. And what I found and what I want to share with you is just that line of action where I think its power is in its generality, right? I think what the other guys have very successfully shown you today is that line of action is generic. So when it comes to drawing the body, it's tough to get anywhere specific with it because the body is a little more complicated. Can you use it at the beginning to say, you know, I want this figure pointing in a general direction? Sure, you could do that. But it's finally creating more than one, let's say, line of action, which we can almost, as Diego put very well today, you can call that a directional force and say, I need more of these to create rhythm. And the body is actually a rhythmic machine. So, you know, line of action is just, it's a very shallow or short path. You know, you need more when it comes to the human body. But it's abstract and it's big, right? And it's simple. So how can we use it, right? Hierarchically speaking, and as you all know, it's in all the books, you know, I am a very fond believer in thinking hierarchically or thinking in a prioritized standpoint, you know, from a prioritized standpoint of big to medium to small. So I'm going to try and share with you other ways that you can even just use the idea of line of action. It doesn't have to be about the figure. There's other powerful ways to think about it, right? Okay, so of course, you know, if you have any questions, throw them in the chat there so the other Force instructors can bring it to my attention. So one of my favorite artists of all time, I would say, is Frank Frazetta. So this is a Frank Frazetta painting, by the way. Let's make sure that's all set there. So here's a Frazetta piece. And it's kind of interesting if you do look at it, all things aside, it's kind of peculiar that it's a night and it feels almost science fiction. So I kind of love that about it. It's really odd if you look at the context of all of it. Pretty cool. But with that aside, we can look at a painting and say, what is its line of action or what are the lines of action? So line of action, to take it out of the context of the human body for a moment, can be used as an amazing compositional tool, right? Because the concept of action, right, created by line is such an abstract thought that it doesn't have to be the human body. It can be other things as well. And that's what my segment is about with you today. So when we look at this painting, I want you to learn that you can look at things in such a broader scope, such a hierarchical scope, that we can use this concept of line of action, right? So there's a lot of different things going on. I'm going to point to you some of the bigger like lines of action compositionally that I think start to work here, right? So for instance, look at all these clouds, right? Notice how they all sweep, you know, downward towards the night, right? And the night is basically our focus, right? The night is sitting here. He's got a circle behind him, right? So there are lines of action in the composition itself that make us look at him, right? There's the line of action of the ground, right, is sweeping up here. Look at the line of action of the mountains, right? They're sweeping over here. So those are all the really big, broad ones. You'll notice down here, there's another one, right? So compositionally, the abstraction of this is like everything's pointing there, right? There are lines of action that literally point right towards the night. I happened to learn this when I was at Disney Animation. If you, after today's video, go watch some Disney films, and you'd be amazed to see how often they use this trick, right? You'll see, there's one that really sticks out in my mind because I'll use it sometimes when I'm teaching someone composition. There's a shot, here, I'll draw it on this side. There's a shot of Timon on the branch when they all are like jumping off of this tree in the jungle, and it kind of looks like this little thumbnail. And he's like over here. And the branch is a giant pointer, right? It's its own line of action. And right here is a big yellow circle. And around the yellow circle are all different kinds of trees, right? There's all jungle around them. But if you look at the trees, you'll notice that all the branches and leaves of the trees are like little lines of action, right? They're all pointers. And I guess that's what we're doing here. I'm saying, look, line of action can be used as a pointing system in composition, right? And it's active, right, because of that. Last but not least, to talk about the Frazetta painting, you'll notice there's other things in here as well. It's like, well, this character with the club, his arm is going that way, right? That's no accident, right? Frazetta was a genius, okay? He's a genius artist. All these things are not by accident. They are totally systematically designed, okay? This other guy is also looking that way, right? Her hair is going this way, but she's small, right? So she's the only thing that has her back to him. She's looking off this way. It is so overpowering to make sure that you look at that guy. And then that guy, the knight, is finally going in the opposite direction, right, to save the girl. And you'll notice the knight and the girl are both looking in the same direction, and all the bad guys are looking in the same direction, right? So abstractly, you have these two counter line of actions going on between the knight and the girl, and then also the creatures and the entire environment like moving, you know, towards him, right? So this is a good example of the fact that line of action is actually a really powerful tool, and it doesn't have to be just for figures. It can be used for a compositional piece, right, like a painting. And I get questions about composition all the time. It's like, what does it even mean? How do I use it? So here's a first tool to think about, you know, lines of action or line of action, multiple or one, pointing towards where you want people to look, right? Super powerful tool. The best of directors and cinematographers, animation studios use this trick. When I learned this from Disney, when I left Disney and I knew this, this tool, I didn't know who I could look at to better understand it. And Saving Private Ryan had come out, I remember, a few years after I had left Disney. And if you look at Saving Private Ryan, you'll see in battle scenes that there's pieces of wood in like the scenes where there's a lot of destruction of the buildings. And the pieces of wood within those scenes are actually pointing towards where the actors are going to stand, right? And I was like, oh my God, they are actually using this here too, right? You've got these lines of action used as composition to point you to where you want the audience to look, okay? All right, so hopefully that makes sense. That's one very big way of using this idea of line of action. Let's kind of take a look at another Frazetta piece real quick. Let's see, okay. So this one always sticks out in my mind. I always remember this one because it's very rhythmic line of action, right? So we have our composition over here. And it's split in half, right? Like so, that's this ground plane. We've got, you know, some rocks over here. We've got some trees over here, right? 3 trees. Notice that these two are closer together. This one's further apart. You got one bending out, and then you have another shape over here of these trees. And then you've got this line of action, right? And in this case, it has to be rhythmic, right? So you have this, and similar to what Swenley did today, he stuck sort of stick figure-like boxed out characters on that line of action. The line of action is almost used like a train, right? So Swenley used it on the body as a train. Here, Frazetta is using it as a compositional element, and the train, of course, is the child with and his mother, along with all of these wolves, right? So they're on the train. So you can see, again, this is so abstract that multiple figures, mammals, you know, human beings are on this abstract train. It's not just about, again, the human body, right? See, how are we doing on time? All right, we're doing good. Why don't you, if you guys can, just tell me when I've got only like a couple of minutes left, right?
Sure,
You know,
we'll do
one
that.
of the things I want to say here.
Mhm.
Yeah. So now I can see like Frazetta, like how cleverly he did this. You know, he's doing this, and then with the wolf hand, he's doing like this. It's like kind of it's going opposite with his hand and his head, and then it's like coming, with this figure. So yeah, that's something I noticed.
Yeah, just to clarify, I think what you're saying is the bad guys are all part of the S going this way, and the good guys, right, are like going this way in this case.
Yeah.
You know, there's that division right there, right?
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
So, and notice how I drew this, not to get into a giant composition lesson, but look at the simplicity of all this. So the S is another tool that I can stick into the overarching composition within this box, right? So I split it in half, you know, now hopefully you see that. It's like, oh yeah, wait a minute, this is split in half, right? And we have the bottom half occupied with where all the action is, and then we have all these trees. It's interesting that he put the bird out here. It's almost also a foreshadowing of bad things, because when you see hawks or vultures, you're like, ah, there's death in the air, right? Something's going to happen on the ground. Okay, any questions so far? How's it going in the how's it going out there in the chat? Anything specific come up?
Yeah, Swanley is bragging about his drawing.
Nice. So everyone knows this painting by Van Gogh, right? I just wanted to bring in line of action again, right? So, you know, we can see the sort of obvious, right? Which is like this stuff, right? It's got all this swirliness, and Van Gogh had his own very specific approach to how he painted with the brush strokes to create motion. So almost every little line has its own sense of direction to it. But on a higher level, when I look at this painting, you know, I see this, right? To me, this is the bigger line of action in this painting. You got this like giant landscape that's coming down and sweeping and then moving up into the foreground with the trees. And then that follows us through into those swirls. So to me, this is more of what the line of action is, right? And then you've got the moon kind of sitting out here in this giant, you know, negative space, right? Compositionally, again, you can see this is like lower third within the box, and there's like layers of it. You know, it's like town, right? Mountains. This is all about the night, right? Starry night. And so most of this composition is sky with a small amount of ground. And we have this tree bursting out into that space, and you get a sense of how the clouds and the trees, everything swirls us into the middle of this painting, right? So to me, this is the line of action of this painting, okay? All this making sense, guys, out there in the chat? You guys still following along?
Yes.
Okay, good. So let's go to comics, right? Again, many of you may not know this, but before I went into the animation industry, I actually went to school for comic books. So I love comics. You know, I'm always happy to talk about comics, and hopefully in the future we'll bring on some comic book artists even onto the channel. So this is Lionel Yu, one of my favorite comic book artists. His name is spelled like this, Lionel Yu, Y-U. This is a page layout, right? I mean, it's pencils, of course, and you can see his pencils are pretty darn tight. But what I want you to see is the abstraction of line of action across the composition of the entire page, right? So in a comic, things get a little bit more tricky because, you know, you have to think about the composition of not only the page, but then every panel, right? So the page has line of action. So up here, there's just a lot of stuff going on right here. I'm going to kind of split this up the way that Lionel has it split up. It's kind of like this, right? So we have these two narrow frames up at the top, and then we have the large one where this big kick happens, right? So that was cleverly done. Notice the biggest frame has like the most action in it, right? Like this moment we want to focus on. And then finally, the smaller one at the bottom. So the top one, when it comes to action, it seems like there's just a lot of stuff going on, right? Guys are getting kicked all over the place. But this guy here in the foreground that's pretty big, his leg actually starts to point us down this way, right? And that kind of brings us to this guy over here, right? And then this guy here is hooked up to this leg, right? It's like this. And then this guy's sitting on top of that with his leg. And then these guys here, they create like a triangle. You see that, like a big arrow, basically. And that arrow goes down to this guy's face, you see? So notice what starts to happen. We have this line of action that goes like this through the page, you see, which is very cleverly done. So across panels, Lionel had to design the page layout to have its own line of action, right? To have its own flow across numerous compositions tied together onto one page. No easy task,
Yeah, Mike, and also with values is also helping go through that page with values.
Yeah. Yeah, the black obviously is almost the thing that's helping us get through the line of action, right? It's really helping us flow through all of this, most definitely. Okay, let's see. So that's Lionel Yu. Here's another one I had to bring in. Mike Mignola is one of my all-time favorite artists. It's not just comics, but I would say in general. Love Mignola's work. Sometimes people are surprised. They're like, oh, you like Mignola? Because he seems very graphic. Hold on, I have to get rid of this, and this has been driving me nuts. Brush. The smoothing is driving me bonkers. There we go. Okay, so here's Mignola's work. And he, now that you've learned this little page layout trick, right? Like, let's start taking a look at this together, right? It's like, so what's going on? We've got the small panel on top, big panel in the middle, kind of medium on the bottom, right? So we got small, big, medium, which is also a design tool, by the way. And then we got this really smallish one over here, right? So we have this woman's face. We start with this woman's face, and then we've got this giant monster head. Where's the monster head looking? It's going this way. The guy's arm is this way, but his eyes are looking this way. That leads us down right into this giant size creature, right? It's like standing here like this. And you got, you know, Hellboy standing over here with this pole, right? So we can sweep down through this, and this going right through this figure, obviously we hook up like right into him again, right? So we go down the whole left-hand side of the page with these lines of action. It makes it really clear too, because, you know, Hellboy's over here and he's doing his thing. You know, you got the clarity and silhouette of the pole that he's holding when he, like, you know, stabs this creature, right? And this line of action is very simply flowing down the left-hand side of the page. Kind of interesting too, because it kind of balances against this smaller dead moment in the bottom left. And then we have all this like active moment here on the right and this line of action flowing through the page, right? So if you're a comic book artist out there, or even if you're a painter or you want to do concept art, what I'm trying to share here with you is use line of action, right? Line of action is a great compositional skill. You can even say, as we talked about today earlier, I want to just know that the line of action is going to be this with this creature and this with this pole, right? So you can use it at a very simple high level at the beginning to just go, okay, this is going in this direction, this is going in this direction. To bring us back around to what all the other force instructors talked about today, when it comes to the human body itself, I think it falls short, right? It's so oversimplified that you don't really know what the body's doing. It doesn't have a sense of gravity. The body has a little more complication to it. I think a line of action is an excellent compositional tool. I've been an art director in games for many years. It's a great art director's tool because I can easily say to an artist, hey, I want this guy, you know, maybe pushing back more, and I want this going this way. It's really this abstraction of forces, right? I'm like, I want this to respond this way instead of it responding this way, right? So I got these two abstractions of force. You know, we can call them lines of action. They're really like directional force lines, and trying to look at what the relationships are between them, right? All right, let's see what we have left here. I think I have my last one. We've got 2 minutes left. Perfect. So to make my point here about, you know, this is such an abstract concept, I brought in something that we would never expect to see in a force workshop, right, or Force Friday. I mean, here we've got this excavator, and it's like, well, what is this doing here? You know, it's a machine, right? Which, by the way, I actually love this kind of equipment, because when I look at this, I see a human arm. I'm like, oh, look at this. Look at how it works relative to human anatomy. Most machinery is based on how we function. That's how engineers start and where they work from. But this has a line of action in it, right? So I can actually go over to something like this and say, this is the line of action, right? And this thing scoops up, right? That's how it works. So to close off today's session, line of action, LOA, is great as a very simple idea, big picture thinking. Almost too big, I would say, at times to really use it effectively on the figure, right? as all the artists today have proven out, when it comes to the line of action of the body, what you're really looking for is rhythm, right? Rhythm is what we want to find in the human body. This is our line of action in essence, right? It's numerous line of actions that create rhythms, and rhythms are what get you through the entire figure, as Mrityunjay showed today, right? Very, very quickly and more decisively, more specifically to the actual pose itself that you're drawing, right? So I can stick around for another minute or two if any of you guys have any questions. Please, you know, if it's your first time here especially, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the bell, because the bell will notify you as to when we're having our next live force event, or if something new comes on the channel. We're going to be getting interviews up here very soon. We're just finishing up editing on the first one. So you'll see that soon. And we have our next 2 topics planned out as well. So if you're interested in, you know, the work that we're doing here on the YouTube channel, then definitely subscribe. How are we doing on likes? Get those likes up, right? I know we've had up to 80 concurrent viewers today, but only 58 likes. So please, if you did enjoy today's Force Friday session about line of action, then please hit the like button.
Yeah, and also, guys, if you can, share it on your social media, share it on Facebook, on Instagram, to make more people aware of we're doing this. We are here trying to help everyone that we can. And if you enjoy drawing, and you could be a good people and share this with your friends, right?
Yeah, share with other artists. You know, I think I hope we're doing some valuable work here for you guys, and that it'll, you know, affect your work positively and help you improve as an artist. So yeah, if you believe in what you're doing and what we're doing, I should say, then please, please share, right? So I think that's it. Thank you everyone for coming today. Next week's is already set up as well, you know, next week's session. By the way, you'll notice we didn't critique today. So we will be critiquing. It's not like that's stopped. Based on polls that I've taken with you guys, lessons seem to be one of the things you guys were most interested in. So we have 2 more lesson Force Fridays after this. And then 3 weeks from now, we'll do another full hour on critique. So, you know, feel free to keep sending your stuff into the Dropbox, because I'm going to go look at that when that week comes and we do the critiques. We're going to pull out of that Dropbox, okay? But these next few weeks, we're going to focus on lesson to lesson to lesson, all right? So thank you, everyone. Thank you guys today for coming, Diego, Swenley, and Mrityunjay, and helping provide your skills to describe line of action and how it works and how it doesn't work. And we will see everyone next Friday. Thanks again. Take care.
Yes,
Bye-bye.
thank you for
See you
coming, guys.
guys. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
See you next Friday.